Welcome back this week. I am Reverend Tracy L, and I'm so happy to as always, having our returning listeners, our new listeners, and wherever you catch your favorite podcast after. Never forget, although we are live every Tuesday, you can watch us again on YouTube, and you can also listen to us where you find your favorite podcast. So the world keeps moving. It's almost the end of April, and we kind of sometimes look back and feel like we've been standing still, or maybe you feel like, where's the year going? I know I'm trying to wonder where the year is going. We have a really special show today. I call it our Friendship Hour. And I actually like that name in general because we become friends and we become soul families. And that's what it's about right now with all the shifting and changing. You know, I was having some really incredible conversations over the last couple of days with people. And one of the things that was so timely that we planned to do this show with our incredible guests is because as we're shifting and changing, you do need to understand how to move the energy and shift the energy. And you know, that's what we do. It's what we talk about here to empower you. But it's also extremely important that you have practical tools, understanding, and knowledge of what is coming forward. And that's so it can empower you to make changes in your life. And what was really brought to our attention that makes our community very different is just that. So we don't just talk about energy tools and we don't just talk about, you know, how to shift it. Yes, you've got to understand that. It's a big part. Your God connection is number one. But we focus a lot on your health, your connection to the God of your understanding, the love of your relationship with yourself, with your partner, with your finances. But we also bring in teachings and learnings and educations of how do you maneuver those? Like, I like to use finances as an example. We're not taught that in school. We teach it in these different academies. We teach you to empower you. And same with your health, to teach you to, you know, bring you back to where you're supposed to be and where you know you're to be as a sovereign being, a child of God, to be empowered. Nothing, it can look scary out there in the world. It can look fearful, but that's not what it's about. When you understand what you're seeing, you can become empowered to make decisions to change your life. And that's why I'm so grateful that we have three amazing women with us today from both our Miraculous Academy and our Evolutionary Academy. Very different. The Evolutionary is more like a mastermind. It's a lot more intense. We have Monika from there. She'll let you know how intense it can be sometimes, but really about their change and transformation. So first I want to welcome Sophia and Alex and Monika, and they all come from very different backgrounds. Alex, you've heard me speak of her before. She is one of our younger souls in the Miraculous Academy, but we have also helped her transition from things that looked very dire to living a pretty amazing, I call it a miraculous creative life, living her dream. So I want to welcome all of you. Alex, I'm going to start with you being our youngest, one of our youngest. We have young people, but I'd love to hear your perspective as a young person. I know sometimes people say, well, energy work or practical tools, or what do you find is the biggest difference for you as a young person finishing university and been with us for a long time with your health challenges, and now that you've overcome them all and really miraculously, what do you want to share? What do you find is a big change for you having the support?
Yeah, I first got involved with Tracy and Tracy's community when I was maybe just turning 14. I was really young. I'm 20 now, just so it's been
Perspective.
a couple years now. And when I met Tracy, I was like my whole family. I'd been sick for almost 2 years at that point. Just various medical conditions. I was living at Sick Kids Hospital. Um, I had a colostomy bag. I had no feeling in my feet, my parts of my head. Like my body was just like, get me out of here. I do not want to be in Earth School anymore. And Tracy taught me. I mean, I say Tracy, healed my body, but really taught me how to heal my own body.
Mhm.
Um, they like doctors told me crazy things, that they wanted to like remove parts of my organs and all this stuff, and none of that happened. They
Yes.
couldn't understand how I was just one day fine. Um, and Yeah, so I'm here now, completely healthy, free of all health issues, with real tools that, anytime anything comes up, that you can just sort of move it and release it and let it go. And it doesn't have to affect your body or infiltrate you in any way. So it's,
Do you find as a young person in university that having all those tools, because you were young and you were, but so what I love about when you first came, just so tenacious and you understood there was something greater, you could feel it. Do you find now having all those tools these years later such a good benefit, especially finishing university and dealing with what you deal with every day?
yes, because I started so young, um, the body regen method and just like understanding my connection to God was so ingrained in me in really formative years, which I'm so grateful for every single day. It sort of influenced the way I've grown up into myself, and um, have really been ingrained now in me for so many years that like I don't even think about it anymore. It's so second nature, um, and it's really positioned me, as a person, especially like in university where
Yeah.
there's not a lot of connection or spirit. Sometimes it can feel like a very overwhelming place, with not a lot of room for God,
Yeah.
honestly. So,
Or empowerment, I think that's a big thing. We talk about empowerment
yeah,
and that you get those tools and now you can be empowered to make the decisions and move through what you need to make through as a young person.
yes, and also just, creating a community around you, of good people, honestly. Really just manifesting and aligning great friends and people and a community, which really just comes also from your community, the
Yeah.
TLC community. It's just been such a foundation for me.
It's nice because exactly as a younger person, you've got all these age groups and it doesn't matter, right? They're just there to support and uplift and that's what I love so much. I'd love to know, Sophia, what's your thought on that and community, especially with the changing times we're going through?
Yeah, so I've been with the TLC community for almost 4 years. I
Wow,
cannot believe it.
that's
And
fast.
I think I always go back to the first time I met Tracy. I
Hmm.
went to a live event. I miss the live events so much, but
But we're with
um,
you. Maybe
yeah,
one day, I don't know. We'll have to create our own little holographic bubble and get in there.
yeah, exactly. And I remember showing up and there were so many people. I went alone. I
Mm,
didn't know anybody there. I was so nervous, but I just had a really good vibe, and I just knew that it was the right place for me to be in at that time in my life. And I remember sitting next to somebody, and like she introduced herself right away. She was so sweet, so kind. Everybody was hugging, and I'm like, where am I? Like this is like, and the community is just the most beautiful, generous, loving, kind people. They're all like-minded. um it's just love. Like I don't know how to explain it in any other way except you just feel the love. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. Even if you're just having a crappy day, you can just message anybody and you'll have 50 people saying, I'm here for you, I'm praying, what do you need, what do you require? Like you can't get that anywhere else. It's beautiful. I'm very grateful. And
Well, now that we have Telegram, I have to say, I've actually people have asked me, where have you gone on Facebook and stuff? Because I've really pulled back because I've moved the groups to Telegram. Because what I find there is it's easier with that interaction. Like you say, you need a support or you need a rebalance. Because now we're with all this unprecedented times going on, it's easy when you're working in the institutions, I call them. So when you're working in these environments that are very, government, medical, banking, these school systems, right? So institution, it's easy to sort of get pulled down, but then you need that support to sort of pull you back up and say, hey, wait a minute. I just walked into what seems like a bunch of, like a snake pit. Help, can I come back over here to get some love, some kind, and some support? And do you find that that's been a big difference to have that during
it's
this time?
for me, it's been life changing. I mean, I've had a pivotal career change recently, and I couldn't see so much that was laying right in front of me. And if it wasn't for Tracy and the community, I don't know where I would be health-wise, mentally, emotionally. The community it's really hard to describe unless you're in it and you see the support that you get. I can give one example. My grandma went into the hospital during this time. And as many of you know, you can't see your loved ones. They limit it to 1 or 2 people in a family of 9 kids. That's really difficult on my mother and my family. And I reached out to the community just saying, guys, can you just send your prayers? That's all I was asking. I could not believe the outpouring that I got. It brings me to tears because the love that was expressed in people that I didn't even know, some of them in the community, there's a lot of people. And I ended up taking a picture of all the comments. There was probably at least 50. And I sent it to my mom and my sister just saying, like, this is the beauty of all these people are praying for grandma. And they couldn't believe it. Like, they were like, oh my gosh, like, who are these people? And just knowing that you're not alone, like in these difficult times that we all go through, the community has been life-changing during the pandemic. Hands down. But even before that, I mean, there's so much value in it. But yes, the support is priceless.
I love it. Well, and that's the point of this space is there's so many communities, but where we're all actively engaged. Like even someone said that to me the other day, you're very active in your community. Like a lot of people you're in there, but who's ever running, I didn't know this. I'm not really in any other communities really. I just love ours. But they're like, yeah, they only pop in and out. And I'm like, wow, like I go on Telegram to make sure I'm there a couple times a day for our community. Like, come on, what do you guys need? I can't obviously get to everything, but it's really, really important. And I know you and Alex get the 5 videos a week in the Miraculous, but I want to go over to Monika because she's in our Evolutionary Mastermind, which is very different. And she's also in our Miraculous Academy. But Monika, what's the big difference you've noticed between the Evolutionary Mastermind and the Miraculous? Because they're different levels, obviously, in different ways. But I'd love to know and hear your perspective of the two, but how it's changed for you, because you've gone through such a huge journey yourself.
So I joined the Evolutionary at the end of January, and we're now April. And this in no way reflects on the Miraculous, because the Miraculous is literally what it's called, is Miraculous. I was in that program for a year, from the end of 2019 to the end of 20, and my life changed completely. My internal life, I am 180, completely different, and all in good ways. Here telling you about how amazing the changes are, that's an example. So that was Miraculous to begin with. But it got to a point where I was really after closer contact and shifts, like boom, something that you would sit in for months or years or weeks. I was sitting in it for days, which was amazing, because if you're sitting in something for a year and now you're sitting in it for so much shorter, but now it's gone down to hours. It's just boom, because it's a smaller group and we get to know each other. And that whole thing that Sophia said about community is absolutely true. There are beautiful, beautiful souls in the Miraculous Academy who are reaching out to you and supporting you. And that does make all the difference in the world. And then with the smaller group, you get that addition where you actually get to really know each other, and we're propelling each other forward. And it's just the expansion. It's an intensified expansion, and it's like Miraculous plus.
plus. One of the things I like about when you're in that sort of that mastermind group too, is there's a lot more, I don't like calling it homework. There's more, I guess, actionable steps, right? Like more, we like to take it the easier way, where here's some suggestions, and when we're working in Miraculous, or here's some things that we can shift and change every day, and some tools. But do you find that now, being in the mastermind, in the Evolutionary Mastermind, that it is a lot more intensive? It's a lot more like we're really diving into things like silver and gold and cryptocurrency, but we're doing tutorials and we're doing like foundational steps of God and connection. And then there's follow-up for the next week. Do you find that's more like, how does that benefit you?
It's literally one of the main reasons why I signed up, was because I wanted that accountability.
Yeah.
And it's so important to be accountable to yourself. That's number one, of course. But for those of us who can use assistance along the way, a step is being accountable to someone who you really respect and admire. And then you build that accountability for yourself. And so it's having that interaction that really builds that up. And I'm sorry, but I really like the word homework. I relate to it.
I'm always like, I don't know if Alex likes the word homework. She's probably like, I've had enough homework. We say it's like soul assignments or soul work, and they are optional. I never say I'm not like that. I said it's not like that. It's like, if you want to propel. What have you noticed has been the biggest change in these last 3 months with you now, like in your perspective? I know I could say everything, I see it, but I want your perspective for people.
I hope this doesn't sound negative, and I mean this in the most positive way possible, and I'm sure that people will take it that way, is that I was really enveloped in a crippling shame. And even with all the changes that I had made and all the evolutions that had taken place, I still couldn't see it through the shame. And this lifted the veil. And so it's just a complete difference of the perception. It's a shift in perception. And it's not that you can't shift your perception in the miraculous, but it's the soul assignments that give you the work. Here's another thing. I thought it was going to be unicorns and rainbows and a love fest. Nope. You do dig deep, and you do get to the root of what it is that needs to be kicked out. And that can be painful. But again, you don't sit in it. You go to where you need to go, and then you come out of it, and then it's gone.
And I think that's the most beautiful thing, is that no matter what, what part of the community people are in, it's when you're really willing to show up there, it just depends on how fast you want to go and how fast you want to leave. I just want to any of you, you can sort of, I'd love to hear and really just have another perspective of some of the biggest changes you've noticed in your lives over the last, through this time of this pandemic. Because with this pandemic, and when you look at saying, okay, career shifts, relationship shifts, jobs, the world is, we really have two worlds going on right now, right? We have the old and we have the new. And it's not like, I'm not sure why people in the spiritual community think you're just going to go to bed and wake up tomorrow and it's going to be this whole new world. We have to dismantle the old. So I'd love to hear from any of you about what you noticed was the biggest shift that you've made in the last year that you don't think you could have done had you not had community and support and energy shifting and understanding what was coming, so you could be empowered to move forward. Maybe like Sophia, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go. The first word that comes to mind is fear.
Yeah.
That's something that, I think part of healing is moving through trauma and like Monika says, not sitting in it. And I would sit in the fear, whether it was related to health, related to career, related to family, whatever it was. And if it wasn't for Tracy in the community, I mean, when Tracy says like she's there, she's there. I've never met anybody that encourages you to reach out and if you need anything. And I think the biggest thing for me was moving through the fear. And moving through the fear with the support, because it's really hard to move through these times alone, because fear's everywhere. And I had a lot of fear before. And so, and that was just ingrained in me since I was a kid, to be afraid of crossing the street, to be afraid of everything. And so moving through that, and I think the biggest thing for me and the biggest change was realizing what is good for me and what's best for my well-being and what's going to get me to the next level, not only in my career, not only in my health, in my relationship, but just within myself and spiritually, and growing with God. And living in a state of fight or flight all day, every day, doesn't serve anybody. And you can push and push and push, but it wasn't until I would, message Tracy through email, through the Miraculous, and just say, I need support. I feel something's wrong. I feel something's not aligned, but it's like, intuitively what it possibly could be, but the jump is so scary and the fear sets in and you don't know what to do and how to move through it. And Tracy guided me through that. The community guided me through that. And I have moved to such a place of, like Monika says, being able to move through any fearful things that might come up. We all have them. But not to sit in it, not to believe it, not to feed it and sit there for hours and days. And I've made a huge change in my life, and I wouldn't have been able to realize that I needed that for my well-being, for my health, to move to the next level in my life if it wasn't for Tracy and the community. I would have been too much in fear.
Fear, you can't live your dreams if you have fear. And I love your perspective on, so I did something yesterday, and she said to me, you just sort of tell that truth like it is, but you don't make, like she was listening, so you don't make me afraid, you make me empowered. How, because when I give out these daily messages, we not only have daily messages every day of the energy of what's shifting, what's happening, let's move the energy, we're in and out of, whether it's body, health, finances, love, connection, God, because it's a whole wheel, right? How do you find, because I do deliver some messages that there's things coming, and I don't, it's not about the fear, it's about empowerment. How do you find that you do you appreciate those? How do you find you handle those now?
So, oh my gosh, yes. It is all about empowerment. Believing, one, that you can do anything, believing that, your body can heal, but the messages don't come across as fearful. I can see why people could go into that, because it is pretty heavy stuff sometimes, but it's coming from a place of love, and you feel it, and you know that it's preparing you. And it's never like, okay, this is what's coming, and that's it. There's always solution. There's always hope. And I think you take something really heavy, and your laugh is contagious, your smile is contagious, and it's all about perspective. And so when it is heavy, our last Thursday call, Miraculous call, was really heavy. And I went into I wanted to go into fear, but instead of going to fear, I was like, okay, I'm behind. Like, what can I do? Where can I find resources? I sat with my husband. I'm like, let's go through this. Can we watch the end of it together? How can we support one another, versus getting down, depressed, going into my bed and putting sheets over my head? It was like, you're giving us a solution, and you're empowering us to take control of every area of our life, not just finances, not just health, not just career. It's every area.
I think I love that you said that, because it is the goal with the way to be is not just, oh, we're going to swirl the purple light. Well, that's great. But then you're going to put your head in the sands. And what is that actionable step? How do you prepare? When the world is dismantling, you're not just going to come out and everything's going to be normal. There are things, and when we look at a dismantling energy, everything has to come down to be rebuilt. And during that time, there's transition. And I don't feel that I am empowering you by not telling you, okay, guess what we see, guess what's coming, guess what, and anything can change. And we keep moving to see if we can collapse time frames and change. But at the same time, when you take those actionable steps, and people don't have to, we have lots of people that don't take them, and that's fine. But like you said, I love what you said, say to your husband, okay, so how can we diversify? We're always saying how you can diversify in every area of your life to move through the next transition. And I think that I really am glad you said that, because that must have made you feel more empowered at the end of the call versus, oh my God.
Yeah. And like, I used to go into like, oh my God, this is just, or ignore it and not do anything. Like that was me last year when you were preparing us. Like, I was like, I've got so much going on, and you have to focus on what's right for you. But I think Monika touched on it a little bit in terms of you get what you put in. Yes. So, it's a lot, like even the Miraculous you're getting, but it's your perspective, and it's the work. It's all work. It's work to empower you, to lift you, to bring you to the next level. And it's the way you look at it. If you smile and laugh through it like you do, it's inspiring, it's empowering. And, my husband now, he's listening. Like he's doing stuff like I don't even need to tell him anymore. He's always on crypto. He's always looking at stuff. He's always, yeah. And like that took a little bit of time, but hey, we're still here. We're growing together.
Apparently I found out the other day we're the weirdest community ever, because I'm always educating, talking about cryptocurrencies, and people are like, you're the weird, you've been doing this for 5 years, you guys are weird. And I'm like, well, we'll stay weird all day long, because if you don't understand gold, silver, and crypto, you know, I'm sorry, but monetary is a big part of what's transitioning. And you know, if we are all empowered, we can move through. And I always say, when good people are prepared, then we can help other people, whether it's your food or your currency or your health or your knowledge. Or so I like that you said that. Monika.
Can I jump in on the crypto? Because Tracy had asked earlier about the changes, right? And I had wanted to look at finances I'm middle-aged, so I had wanted to look at finances for decades. And I just had my head in the sand, head in the sand, head in the sand. I had enough for my life, but nothing building. And in the Miraculous, again, I wanted to do the crypto. And through the specialized attention of the Evolutionary, that's when I took the step. And I've just dipped a toe, but I've dipped the toe. And that was decades in the making. And it happened in February, boom, I was in. So that's the changes.
Now you feel more empowered, because you've learned not only, like I said, shifting the energy, shifting the wealth vibe, understanding why our wealth vibe hits our ceiling, but then you learn these other possibilities, and you get to make choice. You get to decide, because we're actually, it's like we're learning and bringing all that great information. I love that. Alex, how are you finding that it was really, how do you find your empowerment, your change? What do you want to share? What do you want to share as a young person?
Yeah, I mean, it's been night and day. Yeah, like I think the big thing that I've, especially during the pandemic and through all of this like year of craziness, being in the Miraculous Academy with Tracy, has just been like really choosing myself and prioritizing my own. I mean, obviously you help everyone around you, but just by being you. And a lot of people don't want to hear anything right now, regardless of what you're saying. And so you just need to be there and lead in your own example of no fear and trust and happiness. And it's been great. The other thing has really just been, I mean, through my whole journey, I've really been learning this, is that it's just fun. It's just fun. When people hear about, you know, the things that you've gone through and working through trauma, and it can seem really heavy, and it is sometimes, but it's also just really fun. It's a blast. And the feeling that you get,
right? Like looking at the joys of the win. Like when someone says, you know, maybe there's an article and look at that. I'm like, but that's a win. That's the joy of the new coming. That's the celebration of what's coming. Like, I love that perspective, and I like that. And do you find like you guys get 5 videos a week, and the reason in the morning, so people don't know, they come out in the morning, and they're all real time. Like, these are not like 10 months ago. These are like real time, different. Do you find that helps keep you like grounded for the day and moving for the day?
Without a doubt. I notice a difference in myself if I, sleep in or don't watch my Tracy video that morning. I go through my day and then I come home and I'm like, why does something feel off here? I feel gross. And it's because I forgot to watch my Tracy video in the morning.
Well, it's the shift. We do the shifts every day. We shift together, and we see, because we're, I'm looking at the energy of the day, and then we're saying, what God tell me, and then it's just whatever channel. Sometimes, like lately, I get up, I've channeled one, and then I'm leaving, and then there's another one, so I have to come back and then give that to the next day, and it's still within that few day time frame. So I like that. I would really like to I want to just add, what do you want to share? Monika, we're going to go to you, and then we'll go to Sophia, back to Alex. We'll go across the board. What do you want to speak? What's from your heart?
I actually would like to share a story similar to Sophia's, and I got my partner's permission to share it. I was never on social media at all. I literally joined last year in 2020 to be part of the community. And truth be told, I just joined because I love Tracy and I wanted to enjoy the energy that Tracy was helping to hold for us, the space. But through joining up into that group on the online community, that's how I met the community. So I didn't know what I was getting into. I had no idea. I was looking for the benefit of the TLC, but this whole community came along with it. So there was an accident last year and it could have been really serious. And my partner's hand got crushed in a wood splitter, and he works with his hands. So this is his livelihood. This is big guns.
Yeah.
And it was a thing. And the very first thing I did after the first aid was to jump on to the community page and ask for prayers. I specifically asked for those prayers. And I can't tell you how miraculous that healing was. It was just out of this world. We went to the hospital and there was no broken bones, and the hand took about a month to recover, but it was literally a miracle. And it wasn't just reaching out to Tracy for assistance for Tracy. It was an entire community of people praying for the best possible outcome. And it was so intense, the love, I mean, that I felt it from everybody.
Yeah.
And like Sophia said, complete strangers, people who I'd never met before, but this complete outpouring. And love works. Like, it works.
It does work. And what I love about that story and what Sophia was saying, and Alex, what all of you have been saying, is that although we say we get the prayers, what people don't also know is, because I'm always teaching you how to shift your energy, move your energy, every person that's doing the prayer is also contributing to the energetic shift to, back out the trauma. Like there's, and you've heard me say it, there's called reverse trauma, where you can reverse the time frames, right, to allow things to be healed. Like, we had a little guy who literally, his teacher saw him swallow a paperclip. Of course, I get the 911 right away. A while ago, they rushed him to the hospital. I'm like, there is a way to dissolve and liquefy this. And it might sound a little out there, but they couldn't find the paperclip anywhere. They're like, no, I saw him like put it in his mouth. I'm like, there's a way. These are miracles, like you say. So when you get the prayers, you're also getting beautiful energetic shifts, even because we're teaching you, right? So even if people say, well, just give them, thank you, God, the known or unknown, or reverse the time frame. So now you have all these other people, like you say, with the community that are helping to shift. And there's power in that number. There's power in that, field. And like you said, love and raising that vibe up. It's beautiful to say, hey, wait a minute, I've got that. I love that story. I love it.
It's one of my favorites. And just one more thing, if I can add, he's out there listening on the radio and they're a little bit resistant to going online. I just want to say that last year was my very first year doing online. And so if you're resistant to it, please give it a try. I did it and never looking back. And it's not like I've gone on every single platform. I go to the groups that share the love, and TLC is the most loving, positive, uplifting group. And like others have shared here earlier, even if you share an issue, the focus is on the solution. It's not about the focus is not on what we're going through. The focus is on where we're getting to, and we're doing it together, and there's power in numbers. And I really encourage people to consider it, because I was in Mrs. Invisible, don't look.
Hey, I was just like you. I had to get pushed because of my business electricity. You got to get it. I'm like, no. I was like the little kid with my feet in the sand, and they're like, I'm off all of that. I've been off of it for years. I like my privacy. And they're like, right, you needed to grow your business, right? And so I hear you. What I do, I'm like you. I literally only go to see what do all of you require. Like, that's where I love to spend my time. I'm just like you. I don't spend my time surfing and looking at a million things. People say, you see that? I'm like, no, like I couldn't even tell you what's on TikTok. Like I get that people say these are these big platforms, but to me, that's wasting my atmosphere, my time, my energy. I'm like, how can I contribute to another soul? So that's how I use social media. It's how I like it. Alex, you popped up on the screen. What would you like to share?
Oh my goodness.
In your heart.
Wow.
What's in your heart?
A lot of things are in my heart. I think if I could say one thing, it's just I can't even describe how grateful I am for you and your community and everything. Like, if you would have seen me and my family before we met Tracy, it's like literally night and day. And people wonder, like, how do I? Sometimes it's scary to begin a journey of, self discovery or spiritual journey or just anything like that. And not only scary, but just not knowing where to begin. And I really think a great first step is Tracy has so many free resources, like so many free resources on her Instagram, like even just Instagram lives and stories and all that stuff, but also on YouTube and tracylclark.com on her homepage. Like, it's overwhelming. Sorry,
Not at all. It's overwhelming for
Yeah.
me.
But like, I
Help.
can't believe so many people are like gatekeeping the
Yeah.
spiritual community, and you have to be a certain person, you have to look a certain way, we can't talk about that. It's not like that at all.
That I want to address right there. I don't mean to stop you. That I want to address. You said it really well. There's so many communities I see this. You guys can pop in. You're only allowed, like, okay, we only talk about love, or we only like, don't talk about that. Don't share that problem. I love you said that. You find you just be free, right? Just be who you are.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not all happy, lovey. No one's 100% love all the time, and if we were, we'd be growing. So, it gives you another level of discernment when you look at certain, not to name names, or I'm not calling anybody out, just in general.
Yeah.
Where you look at certain people and they portray such like, if you have negative thoughts, then something's wrong with you and you're not going deep enough and blah, and it's like, okay, well, maybe let's look a little deeper here. And
that's a flag though. That's a red flag, because guess what, guys? We're human beings. We're transitioning all the time. I always say, if someone told me they've like just figured it all out, they would never have a negative thought, like, oh my God, run away, because you're gonna have, but you hear me say this in the academies. I don't like that saying, thoughts become things, choose to go. I don't know where it came from. I'm not slamming whoever came up with it, but I get it. Choose more positive thoughts. I understand that. But it kind of went to an extreme that, oh my God, I'm negative, I'm going to create it. No, you're not going to create it. You're not going to create it. So you had a negative thought, do you know how, I'm going to just throw this out there. It's going to be a funny, but don't take it the wrong way. Do you know how many people I work with, the first thing I'll say to them is, okay, your relationship's ended. You're thinking all the time, you wish they got hit by a bus. And they're like, oh my God, get out of my head, get out of my head. And I'm like, that's a normal process when a relationship's ended. You're trying to figure out, how can I get it? Well, if they got hit by a bus, then they just died. And then they're like, oh, I feel bad. I've been thinking that. Well, their partner's not going to get hit by a bus. It's a normal unraveling of the soul, of the spirit, of the energy, that kind of grasp of where to go next. And it might sound extreme, but I hear that one still every week. I've heard it every week for years. And people are like, get out of my head. I'm like, it's normal. But their partner didn't get hit by a bus. They're not going to get hit by a bus. You find that? I know everyone's like, great. No, see, negative, like, yeah. Or what's another one you've heard? Because I want to debunk some of this, because that's not like that where we are. What's another one you heard, Alex?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I have no idea. Like another negative thing that people say, or like,
no, because I think that a lot of times in spiritual communities, people think we're sitting there in our granola outfits, like, oh, let's twirl the light. Okay, everything's great. Oh, everything's so lovely. Oh, the world is so beautiful. Well, that's not how you get involvement. I don't know, Monika, Sophia, jump in. Like,
I think the big thing, the big thing. Sorry, go ahead, Monika.
I was just going to say there's rules in spiritual communities. And I love that Tracy says that the TLC rule is love, 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 love. Because there's rules, like you have to be vegetarian in order to get enlightened, right? There's all kinds of things going on in all kinds of rules. And the rule here is love. And Sophia, I'm so sorry that I spoke over you.
Oh God, no, not at all. Totally fine. I think the other, I just lost it. But the big thing was like, is the negative thoughts becomes thing. I remember messaging Tracy freaking out after coming back from a retreat and saying like, oh my God, like because you go through dark nights of the soul. And when you're sitting with yourself and you're doing the work, these things do come up. They're supposed to come up. You're supposed to clear them and move through them. but I was freaking out that they could become things. And she's like, that's old teaching. That's not true anymore. And I think like that changed a lot for me because I stopped feeding it energy. I was just like, okay, it moves through. The other big thing that Tracy taught us that was that you need to meditate for hours and hours and hours to have a miraculous healing or to be enlightened, to be spiritual. And some days, it's harder to sit in I love meditating. I am a huge advocate for that. But I think some days I'm like, you know what, I'm busy. I have things to do. And I'll listen to a clearing, or I'll listen to like today's video was amazing. 17 minutes. And you go through your day.
Longer. Some of them are longer.
Some of them are longer, but they're needed. And the other thing is that some of them, we get them in the morning, but sometimes, if you don't have time to listen to them in the morning, I'll have like an off day, like Alex was saying, and I'll listen to it at night. And it's like, how, like it's so aligned. It's exactly what you needed to hear or what you're going through in your life. And you're like, oh my God, I wish and sometimes I'll reach out before even listening to the community or to Tracy saying like, listen, this is what's going on. I need support. And then it's like, well, did you listen to I listen to the video. I'm like, I don't even know why I reached out because it's like in the video.
That's what happens when it's like that real time. And I like we talk about that because we're real. We are going through real stuff. And I think that was, Monika, one of my things why I didn't like social media. I got off of it because it's like, oh my gosh, I could see when you see, feel, and hear, and you're always in and out of those sensories. I got really frustrated with the facade of what it was. And rather than just say, here I am, and we have about a down day or whatever. And yeah, sure, I support and uplift the community, but I have no problem. I went through, I was very vocal with the community and even on my Instagram with what's going on in the pandemic. And, I had a ton of bullying and how our premier was irritating the crap out of me. And he was the exact stature, mannerisms, everything of, I shared it. It took me 2 days to go through it. I was getting so triggered and angry, and I don't watch any of that. I don't have cable or anything. But I'm just saying, hey guys, I had to go through this, but now none of it bothers me anymore because I got rid of the trigger. But I like to share too, because I'm always evolving and changing. And I think it's important that we're constantly like, we're all real people. We're going to hit bumps. Sure, life is fabulous now, but do I not hit a bump? No, sure I do. I hit that bump 2 days, for 2 days. And I was like, getting up, going, not having good thoughts. I had to recant. I had to readjust the editor. I'm like, having bad thoughts, this man, but he's just reflecting something to me, and, break that. And when I break that, then it allows all of you to break that too, right? Because we're pulling up together, and then we can go out and say, okay, I see for what that is. I see what that illusion is. I see what that adjustment is. Do you guys want to comment on any of that, or anyone have something to jump in? Do you find that helps? Because social media can be really,
I think it's so helpful when you're human.
Yeah.
Like you're not portraying yourself as something that is, you obviously have amazing gifts, but you're like us, like you teach us that it's all within us. So we too can connect. We too can heal. You share your story. Your book shares your story in such amazing detail and how you healed, and it encourages and inspires us. And when you have triggers, it's like, well, okay, how did she move through it? How can we learn? The example was when you were getting up in the night and you were like, oh God, spirit woke me up. And I was like, okay, what do you do? Teach us what you do when that happens, because that happens to us as well when you're evolving. And so I think like it teaches us and it inspires us to learn how to move through it, and that it's normal.
Do you find, Alex, that your toolbox is always getting different tools? Like, you don't have to use them all the time, but do you find it helps to have so many tools in your toolbox?
Yes, I find that sometimes I have so many that I forget about them, honestly, and they kind of go in the back pocket. But picking one, and really, sometimes you just come across an old video that you just feel called to watch, and it'll have a tool, and it's exactly what you need in that moment for that next week, and you really focus on one specific thing, and then you kind of forget about it, and then another one comes back in. So it's always changing and evolving, and there's so many different ways to achieve like amazing results.
Yeah, it's nice that you say that. I know I've been kind of having the Miraculous Academy, go back and rewatch it. Like there's like 500 videos there, but most, do you find if you watch an old one, or if you like, you know, we randomly, I'll say pick one, do you find that it's relevant to what you're going through?
Yes, it's hilarious. Sometimes, they say like flip through a book and it's like the first sentence on the book is what you need to hear, whatever. It's like the same with Tracy videos. You just like pick a number and a month and scroll and pick a video, and it's like, oh, well, this is way more relevant now than it was even 6 months ago when I needed to hear this message now. So it's hilarious.
I like how spirit works with that, because we're always aligning them, that if you go back to something, well, you like you said, oh, there's a tool, I forgot about that tool, I can use that, it's like that one will work. I know I just reminded you guys today, I did a different one where it's like, we got to remind them of that tool, so you'll see it probably tomorrow, but it's like, you got to remind them to use that tool. It's an old tool, it's not my tool, but I'm like, that's a good tool for what we're going through in the pandemic right now, right? And this global shift and change. Did you find, Monika, because I know you've gone back a few times, you notice when you re-listen to a class or a video that the energy is still moving? Because I'm very aware to keep them all, like the energy behind them nice and strong.
It's all levels and layers. And the beauty about going back is that you either have maybe forgotten about it, but even if it's something that you remember, it deepens. So yes, the energy is still there, and then it lands in a whole different way, and then it expands. And another thing I love about the tools, this is going in a little bit of a different direction, is that you can actually do them all throughout the day. They're very quick. You can modify them in a way that you are called to, because they're your own. Like you show us the tool, but we can tweak it to make it our own and personalize it. And it's something that you can do throughout your day, because they're really fast. And it's, do you know what I mean? It's not like, I mean, meditation is beautiful, but you don't have to go and sit for an hour to do a tool. You could, it's, and that's one of my favorite things about them. Because I remember being very new to the community and saying, how am I going to do this without looking crazy? But you can just, move the energy with your hands, and just, you can be doing it in public, and it's very discreet.
Very. I know. I do well, when we used to go to tea or get coffee or whatever, there's many times I'd be standing in the lineup and I'd be like, okay, got to shift that. Oh, I see that, and I'm moving the energy, and yeah, teaching you how to do it very, very quickly. Okay. I know we're getting to the top of the hour, so I'm going to go back to Sophia. I know it goes fast, right? They're like, oh, ready. Oh my gosh. Before Olivia says, okay, we got to go. Sophia, what's something you want to share with the listeners? Before we go, if you had something to leave with them, to share, what, or to say?
Oh, there's so much. There's so much. But I think the biggest thing for me was through this whole experience and journey, it is a journey, was not only the support and community, but also I used to run to everybody in my family, clinicians, spiritual healers, whoever, whatever it is, it was outside of me to find answers. So and it didn't matter what it was about. It was like, I need somebody to heal me or tell me what to do and make this decision for me. And it wasn't until I met Tracy and really learned her story. She taught me that we all can connect to the divine, God, spirit, whatever you call it. And that it's all within us. Like the answer is within us, and that we have that power. And to trust, know, and believe that we're always protected, that God is on our side, that we don't have to live in fear, and that we can heal. Miraculous things happen to people all the time, and that it can happen to you too. And it wasn't until, I met Tracy and I had the support that I realized that, and that's shifted my whole perspective. That shifted my whole life. And I think there's been a lot of times where I did need support still and reached out, but not as much and often as I would in the beginning, because I would try to move through it on my own. And then if I had questions or I was curious about what this meant, I would reach out, and she would guide you through that process. But it wasn't a big deal. Like things that I would make the end of the world and like, oh my God, what do I do? Or I don't want to take this, or I don't want to do that. And it was like, okay, don't. Like, this is how we're going to move through it. And it was like having that was so invaluable. And it, you know, it's just, I think that's what I would want to, is that it's with all within us, but also that we don't, it's not the end of the world. Like you do have support and that you can heal and that your body has this innate intelligence within it. And once you know that, and once you have the right people on your side, gosh, you can do anything.
You can, and I think that that's so beautiful, because that is that whole space where we want to keep all of you empowered and everybody that's in the community empowered and uplifted. And that's foreign for a lot of people. They find that hard. And also to say that everything is within you already. And that's my whole premise of why we're all together the way we are, is for you to be empowered and to go out in that world and be that magnificent being that you're meant to be, and why you're here. And know that if we fall down, we've got people to help pick us up, and that it's just a bump in the road. That's all it is. It's nothing else. It's not failure, not nothing. It's a bump in the road to get you to the next space. Alex, what would you like to leave with everyone today?
I think I just would like to say and extend an invitation to anyone who's listening or watching. If you have any children or young people who are going through illness, please feel free to reach out. I would love to chat. I know it's like a super isolating and overwhelming experience, especially for young people. But I'm gonna cry. Like the amount of things that I would love to talk to you about, especially not even about like Tracy and everything, just in general. Yeah, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, it's so important. We know with the non-denominational ministry that's coming, and yeah, legal's taken forever. I think legal's like 10 times slower with COVID. But we're getting there. We're like, every day I get some more today. I'm like, yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because, one of my dreams has always been to have you, Alex, more in that with children and helping them understand, because we're going to open a whole division to help support young people. And it's hard right now with what they're going through, and kids, and they're so intuitive. It's such a young, like from birth, that it gets shut down at such a young age, right? And our whole goal is to create environments and places, and help change the system, so we can empower young people to be their voice and not brainwashed and taking on woke mentalities, but getting into being awake and empowered and loving and kind, and being free to be who they are. So I'm really happy you said that, because it's true. And you've been there. You've been through some very dark times and some very tough times as a young person. And you're the testimonial, like, coming out that other side. I always say I had what you had when I was your age, because it wouldn't have taken me so long. And I'm so grateful that you put that there. And for everyone listening, you're going to see Alex more once those other divisions get up. It's always a work in progress, but it's getting there. She can teach you how to sing and dance and use your gifts and get to the highest levels of that God of your understanding, which is creative arts, right? So hopefully when Soul Sundays are back in person too, we'll get her to help us celebrate a little bit more. So those will be in person and online, but maybe we'll get you online too. Singing away, uplifting our spirit. I love it. Monika, what would you like to say with everyone before we go?
If there's any new listeners out there, or medium new listeners, and it really doesn't matter what stage of life you are, like, it's never too late. And if you are thinking about maybe getting more involved and joining up for a community, it will be the best thing that you do for the expansion that you get so quickly. Like, it's called the Miraculous for a reason. And the Evolutionary, it's called Evolutionary for a reason. You will evolve. So if anyone's on the fence, I couldn't recommend it. And like, all of my changes are internal, so I can't put them on the screen for you, but I just, from the heart, it just literally changes everything. And if you're on the fence about it at all, I highly encourage you to just take the plunge. You won't regret it. You won't look back. It's what Sophia was saying about that thing being within you. If you have any sort of doubts about that power within, this is the community that can help you to see that that's actually true.
And I think I want to just say quickly, one of the things that I just love that you guys brought up today was So many people think that it's a weakness if we are asking for support or community. And I think the way we've all structured ourselves together, I always look at it as empowerment. And why sit in the crap? Like, just, hey, I need some help. Let's go. Or I need to do this. Like, I know even in our Evolutionary Academy, and you know this, Monika, we're doing a fast together. Like, we're like, everybody's deciding, how many people in that, what do we do, so.
And it's fun. Who would have thought that fasting could be fun? But we're gonna do it together, and it's the energy of the group, and woohoo!
And then it's counting down the hours for some people and going, okay, I go longer for others. So I want to thank all of you for coming. I know this hour went so quickly, but I just appreciate you sharing about the community and letting other people know. I've watched all of you with incredible transformation and change. And I am so honored and so proud to be able to see each of you evolve into the incredible space of empowerment, doing what you love, showing up how you want to, and making a difference in the world. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so grateful. And to everybody that's listening, thank you for tuning in. And also next week is a call-in show. Yes, we are coming back. You can call in and I will answer your questions and ship them right here. Get you empowered. You can check us out at tracylclark.com. The book's on Amazon. God, where are you? It's me. But you know what? We're going to be talking about toxins in the body, but not just the physical toxins and what that does in your body, how it reacts and why, but more importantly, the emotional. So have a great week, everybody. Remember, change is happening. Be prepared. Know that you're not alone. That's only a choice, but you can always have people just like these incredible ladies today to support you and uplift you each and every day. Have an incredible day, everyone. And thank you so much for joining me, you three. I just love you all. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Tracy L Clark Show with me, Tracy L, where I teach you how to connect to the God consciousness so you can unlock your superpowers and connect at light speed and live your extraordinary life. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio, where together we will unlock the secrets of your body and your life. As the founder of the Body Regeneration Academy, I, Tracy L, will provide you with the insight and simple tools you can apply right now in your life to move you forward and leave the past in the dust. To join the Body Regeneration TLC Online Academy, make sure you check me out at tracylclark.com.